All right, let's start off with some gratitude, some wins. Going from there. What do you got for me, Sean?
Uh, Gratitude, just everyone here, as always, just grateful for everyone and all the support we give each other. Wins, I got an offer on my condo on Holly Grove, at full price with some closing costs kickback, but we're countering it today, so hopefully
Cool.
that works out. Yeah.
Cool. Well, good luck with that. Congrats.
Thank you.
Come on, please. Make it happen.
Let's make it happen.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times with those type of situations or things in your head, you have to know that you're gonna figure out a way to make it work. Even if you're getting a lot of resistance from your client or the other side, and you have the conversations, and I've overheard some with Ken and you know, asking questions to the other agent before just responding by a counter, which is very smart. A lot of people don't have the tough conversations or ask the questions, they just send it, you know what I mean? They send the counter and then hope for the best. You have to, it's the details that are so important. And the more you're having conversations with your clients, the other agent, the higher probability you're gonna put everything together. So sounds like you're like 90% of the way there. So good job with that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Any other wins or gratitudes, Nisa?
I saw an old friend this past weekend, and I hadn't seen her in a long time, but it's just cool to reconnect with. It showed me the importance of just having good relationships, you know, and keeping in touch with people that you haven't in a while. So it was really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. April, you got anything?
I'm just grateful, like Sean, for, our business here and just the relationships and, just everything that you and Ken have taught, all of you, Leslie, even, not even Sean, but, no, because you're down on yourself, but I learned from you and, I think all of us can, and we can all learn from each other.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like hearing him tell me about, like today, I didn't know we got DigiSign and the other thing. And, it's just like we're always sharing and I'm always learning. That's what I meant, Sean.
I know.
Even Sean.
He needs a t-shirt that says that.
Even Sean.
I need a hug too. How are you doing today, Omomi?
All good, thank you.
Good.
I'm just grateful for life. I'm grateful that I'm still here, and I'm grateful that I get to start each morning how I choose to these days. It's funny, I was talking to someone the other day. I worked in corporate for so long, I genuinely felt sick every Sunday night because tomorrow was Monday, and that meant I had to go back to work for someone else. And I had that pit in my stomach, and I think it made my body sick. And now, and I hated Mondays. I don't like Mondays. So now Monday mornings, that's my day off. I spend with my dog. We go hike, we're in nature, we're doing whatever. I'm grateful that I can make that my version of what life can be these days.
That's cool. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's great. And what do you got, Leslie? What are you grateful for or win?
Well, I'm grateful Cassie and I closed our condo yesterday. So that was exciting. I'm grateful I got one foot out the door because I'm going on vacation tomorrow. I'm grateful to be able to go on vacation. It's been over a year. And I'm grateful for the colleagues who are gonna who I've asked to help me in my absence, and everybody's I've asked is so willing to help. I will reciprocate, to them as well. And just people helping out with open houses. I appreciate that. And like April was saying, just the openness of our communication and sharing and mastermind. I learn a lot from everybody who shares. And anyway, so I'm just grateful for this atmosphere.
Awesome. Wonderful. How are you doing today?
Good.
Good morning. What are you grateful for?
Mine is so odd, but I have these two deals in Los Angeles, and I thought they were gonna kill me just because I'm going back and forth constantly and just, driving and being there all day, and they haven't. And it's, the energy level's been so great, and it's because of the people that I'm working with and just the gratefulness that they have. And I'm feeding off of it like crazy, and it's weird that it's on both properties. But I'm just really grateful that it hasn't been a drudge at all. And, I wasn't sure.
I look forward to our meeting later too, Barbara,
Yes.
so it's gonna be good, but thank you for being here. I guess before, I got a few things that I'd like to get into. Well, I guess I should ask online too. We got a few people online. Who do we got on here? I see Lachelle. Good morning, Lachelle. Thank you for sharing video too. Let
Good
me see
morning,
if I
everyone.
can take it off the share screen so we can be bigger. Wow, that's good to see you, Lachelle. It's been a while.
Yes, it
Nice to see you.
has.
Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, let me turn it up real quick. Volume's down. Okay. Still hear the music. Just one sec. Yeah, not bad.
You need to share what you're grateful for too, Brennan.
There we go. What's that?
You can share what you're grateful for too.
Oh, I will. I don't, it might be a while, I don't do anything short. That's why I want to ask everybody else. Lachelle, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
I could hear you loud and clear.
Awesome. Anything that you're grateful for or a win this last week?
I am actually grateful that you encouraged me to come to training today because already I found value. And I was like, oh, I haven't done gratitude in a while. I need to get back. And a while is like 3 days for me, but it's 3 days too much. So I'm grateful for that. And I'm also grateful for a mommy because we got a new buyer yesterday.
Wow, congratulations. That's
Yes.
awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you're doing really well too. And for those of you that don't get to see Lachelle every day, we talk pretty regularly. So I know she's staying very busy, doing well. So
I'm grateful for
um,
you because when you can, you answer the call, you call right back.
I definitely try my best, but it's always good things, and you're always putting deals together, putting things together, asking questions, and that's what we have to do, And it's as you know, a lot of times if I don't know the answer, I'll say, all right, got to get on broker room, and that was one of the things I wanted to make sure I took a few minutes before I jump into the training, just to show you all. If you haven't done it yet, who here has not hopped on EXP World yet? Barbara, have you done it yet, or? Okay, so you haven't done it yet. Have you done EXP World yet? Okay. Have you all used the broker room, made calls from there?
I do my trainings.
You do your trainings there. That's good. Wonderful. So the broker room, though, is something I want to make sure everybody's familiar with. It's one of the biggest advantages to being a part of EXP is making sure you know how to navigate and hop on the broker room. So I'm going to do a share screen. Was there anything else you wanted to share in terms of gratitudes, Lachelle? Or are you good?
Oh no, I can come up with a laundry list, so I'm gonna leave it at
Okay.
those few things for now.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I want to make sure that I touch because I feel like we're always jumping into our training, and there are certain things that not everybody's aware of where to go to in the broker room. So let me just do a share screen real quick. I'll hop on here. We'll do an example. Does anybody have a question, I guess, that they would like answered by a broker? A situation they're going through right now? Anything that would be helpful to get answered right now? If you can think of something, I got a couple minutes before I'm going to hop on there. So I'm going to EXP World. It's just exp.world is how you log in. And you're going to need your Okta password for just about a majority of the things that you hop onto. But all I do when I'm in here, can you see it okay, Lachelle, on the share screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we just go to on the top window there. And then we go to, should be broker room. Maybe it's under agent support. US broker rooms. There we go. So as you see, we got every single state here. So if you're helping an agent in another state or trying to recruit another agent, this is one of the things you can show them and hop in and go into their broker room. And if they have a question, you can go through and do it. Now, when you first go in here, you do have to set up your avatar. It's kind of weird and feels very foreign because it's like a video game, right? Like, and you're walking through, you're like, I don't know who I need to speak to. I'm trying to think of a question that I have for a broker right now. Does anybody have anything? So actually, personal transaction. That's what I'll ask. So I got a text this morning from an agent. So, all right. So I have a question, broker.
Is that you with the white sneakers?
Yep. Yes, I have an agent that works with me that is doing a personal transaction, and they just want to make sure that they're using the appropriate forms and know about the fees that they pay to EXP. Maybe you didn't hear me. Okay, let me see if I can allow this time. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. So what I was saying was, I have an agent who asked a question about doing a personal transaction and just knowing if there's any particular forms they need to use and what the fees are for that when they're representing themselves in a purchase.
Okay, go ahead and click on broker. Click on the have a question again. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. Oh, are you in there too?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have a question or? Okay. Just a sip. That's okay. But when you're in there, they will ask you. So just go ahead and log out if you're okay with that.
Yes, absolutely.
No, you're good. See, that's how quick it is. So basically, usually, I don't want to jinx it, but it typically doesn't take more than 2 minutes. So from when you go in there, the easiest way, because a lot of times people will they'll go to the front desk at the very front screen and kind of get confused and thrown off. All you do is go straight to the top and hit go to the broker rooms, then go to California broker room, go to the front desk, and now I'm going to be speaking with them here.
Good morning, Brandon.
Morning. Can you hear me okay? Right. I think I did it
If
again.
you can hear me, your mic.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, sir. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
Good, good. So actually, I have you in front of our classroom here in our office. It was just my book. It's okay. Yeah, so just wanted to show everybody how to use the EXP broker room. I actually do have a question for you. But I wanted to make sure that, I educated the class. We have about 10 of our agents here that are all, doing a share screen and watching right now. So no pressure on you.
Awesome.
Sounds good. So I had an agent call me earlier today that's doing a personal transaction, and I was trying to explain to them what the fees were for that. And my understanding is it 335 on a personal transaction?
That's correct.
Okay, and that's what goes to
And-
EXP,
Right.
right? And is it
And here's
go
what, does that agent have a BRBC?
a BRBC? That's
Broker.
yeah, that's a good question. I did not ask that, but they imagine they should have that still.
They.
Definitely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So.
There's a misconception when an agent says, oh, but I'm buying the property for myself,
Correct.
right? You're still two entities. You're a buyer and you're a realtor.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
you always have to have that BRBC.
Absolutely. So I'll make sure that he's aware of that. So the BRBC is in place. When they go into Sky Slope, is there anything that they note for it to be a personal transaction and to make sure that the right fees are taken out?
under the commission tab,
Uh-huh,
they can put a note that it's a personal transaction and then also just put the 335 because most of the time, what buyers do as agents, they credit whatever commission they're getting
Right.
towards their closing costs.
uh-huh.
And then they only collect the 335 that is owed to EXP.
Okay, sounds good. So the credit, so when if it's 2.5% that they're being paid on that, they can just put in the notes that that credit is going towards their closing costs?
Correct, and they would also fill out a commission reduction request. That's an internal EXP form that is found in SkySlope.
Okay, so commission
So
reduction request.
commission reduction.
Okay, perfect. And is there any limit on how many personal transaction an EXP agent can do with the company in a year?
Three, three, 3 in 1 year.
Okay, so 3 in 1 year. And that can be on either side, purchase or listing side for 3. And
That's
then
correct.
and then after that, is it just your regular split?
That is correct.
Okay, perfect.
And then the only restriction on a personal transaction, if you are selling a property,
Mm-hmm.
you cannot represent the buyer.
Okay. So selling the property can't represent the buyer, and that's for E&O purposes?
That is for purposes. Exactly.
Awesome. And for E&O, just while I have you on here, I know I've found in the past that the deductible, as long as the agent did everything they were supposed to do in the transaction, is that $2,500 still?
That is correct.
Okay, so 2,500 that the agent would be responsible for if an E&O claim came in. Obviously, no fraud, no issues where they're actually covered by the E&O. Trying to think if there's anything else. Obviously,
Minimum is the 2,500. If we were to be found liable and the agent did do something, then they could be responsible for more than 2,500.
okay. So as long as the agent didn't do anything wrong, that is typically what the deductible is.
Correct, the 25.
Okay. And then just, I guess, since I have you and I have another agent who does have a mediation that's going to take place. What's typically the best process for that, for the mediation? Is there a broker or do we speak to a broker for any type of grievance committee?
Anytime an issue like that comes up,
Uh-huh.
you need to make the broker team, make them aware of it right away.
Okay.
But you shouldn't ever be doing anything on your own because sometimes they're inviting you to be part of mediation arbitration.
Right.
If it's an option, we do not attend. We do not participate.
Okay. That sounds good. And then
So
and when you say reach out to the broker team, is it doing it this way or is there an email that gets sent out to the broker team?
so ca.broker
Mhm.
at exprealty.net. That's how you can communicate with us and documents, ask us to give you a call. So that's the way to communicate. If you ever need documents signed, you would send them to ca.sign at exprealty.net.
Right. At exprealty.net. Okay, that's perfect. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Nothing else that I have. Any other questions that any of you have just in regards to this situation? No, you're good?
Yeah, does
I have
anybody else?
I have a question.
I have Lachelle. Can you hear Lachelle on here? We're actually sharing with her on Zoom. Can you hear that?
I heard I have a question.
Uh-huh. Perfect.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I wasn't clear, Francisco, on the personal transaction. Did you guys say as an agent you are only responsible for like $335 or something? That's all that EXP gets? And then can you re-explain, I think, something about the credit? Like if you're representing yourself as the buyer's agent and the seller is covering the two, let's say 2%, doing like a reduction agreement. I just didn't hear you really well explaining that.
Yes, yes. So, and I'm gonna state, I am not a CPA. I don't give legal or tax advice.
Right.
But if I'm buying, I'm not gonna take commission and then pay taxes on it. So what I would do is I would credit my commission towards closing costs. And I would only collect 335 to pay EXP. And you would do that using a commission reduction request form where say it's 10,000 commission, you put gross 10,000 commission, you credit yourself, what's that gonna be, 9,665,
Mm-hmm.
and then EXP gets 335. So that's how you would do it.
Thank you.
Still collect commission, but you can credit it towards your closing costs to buy the rate down to, you want to make sure with your lender that you can absorb the entire credit, right? So you
Right.
ask your lender, hey, I'm getting 2.5 commission. Can I absorb all of it through closing costs? Because you can pay your hazard insurance, you can pay a home warranty, you can do all that stuff to absorb that credit.
Okay, I have a question actually. Let's say you are helping a family member. Is there like a minimum as far as commission that we can take to help a family member or anything like that?
I've been doing this 23 years, and usually when you do it at a discount or for free, it usually becomes the most difficult transaction. Having said that, no, we don't have a minimum for you to charge. What I always do point out is, again, and we already discussed it earlier, your deductible, should you get sued, is $2,500. So I don't see why anybody would ever do any transaction and not make at least enough to cover your deductible should you ever get sued.
Right. That's a great point.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, no, by law, we cannot state how much commission you need to charge.
Right.
It's always
Right.
negotiable.
So you had mentioned it earlier about the BRBC.
Correct. Thank you.
Any other forms that are required, Francisco, when you are purchasing your own property, just to make sure? So you mentioned the commission reduction request, the BRBC. Is there any other specific form? And obviously uh-huh.
When you're selling, there is an addendum for a personal transaction that needs to be part of the file.
Okay, so for selling, there's an addendum. And is it called personal transaction addendum, or what's do you know what the name of that addendum is?
Yeah, it's I think it is. I think it's personal transaction addendum.
Okay.
That would be in our sky suit.
Probably in car.
Actually, it's called agent-owned disclosure.
Perfect.
It's agent-owned disclosure of personal interest
All right.
is the actual form.
That's perfect. Awesome. And you do contracts training every Wednesday, correct? Is it 9:30 for California?
Correct. Debbie does, I think she does the listing agreement, and then 2 other brokers do the purchase agreement. And I think it falls like every other Tuesday. Another important thing is every Friday afternoon, an email goes out to all of our agents.
Mm-hmm.
And on that email, you're able to see the calendar of events, classes, but most importantly, it also lets you know who the broker on duty is for the weekend and how to get a hold of them. So we always have a broker on duty over the weekend. We answer the broker hotline until 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. So if you miss the broker floor, we're here Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
9 a.m. to 5 p.m. through eXp World, and then till 7 o'clock on that hotline.
In the hotline, we answer the phone until 7 p.m.
Do you have the number to the hotline?
Yep, it's 888-584-9427.
Perfect. 888-584-9427, and that's the broker hotline till 7 o'clock during the weekdays.
Mhm.
Perfect.
Yep.
Now that's great. This was very helpful. And I'm trying to think anything else in terms of the classes. Yes, April, go ahead.
Where do they pre-record or record any of the forms or contracts clauses?
Do they record any of the contracts classes?
We do not. Contracts classes are never recorded.
Nope. Yep. So just hop on this.
The forms change so often, right? Sometimes we can have forms revised twice a year.
Right.
So that is why we don't record, because we don't want anybody relying on an old video and saying, oh, but the video said this is how I should be doing it.
Yeah.
So
One-
that is why we don't record.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. I think that's good for us, Francisco, unless there's any other tips that you think are good points. So the newsletter I think was a great the email that goes out every single Friday to know what upcoming classes are. Any other things that you recommend?
This is always the most direct way to get help.
Mhm.
Because sometimes on the broker hotline, there's only one or two of us brokers answering, and we can only get to one call at a time.
Right.
So the floor is always the most direct way to get assistance. Let's say that you send a document in for signature and it's been a couple hours.
Uh-huh.
Jump in here, and if I pull you, it's like, hey, Francisco, I sent a document. I'm like, cool. I'll look for it while you're here, and if it's filled out correctly, I have the authority to sign for pretty much almost all the brokers.
That's a great point.
So yeah, you shouldn't have to wait more than a couple hours. If you send a document in and
Right.
you need it signed, jump in here.
That's great. No, that
Then sign.
great tip. And we can get to EXP World from our phone, correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
With this new world, it's a lot more convenient. It's not like the old world that would bog down your laptop.
Right. That's great. All right.
And
Well,
what you can do is say when you come into the broker floor in the lobby,
mhm.
you can save that URL as your favorite.
Uh-huh.
And anytime you want to come into the world, you just click on that favorite and it drops you right in front of the desk in the broker floor.
That's perfect. Yeah, I'm
I don't
definitely
want you to do it here, because if you save this one, then every time you come in, you're at this table and I
Right.
could be helping another agent.
right. Right.
But yeah, at the front desk, once you come in the first time, save that as a favorite. And then every time you want to come to the broker floor, you can come directly into the floor.
That's a great point.
That's really
You,
no.
yeah, no, you've been great,
Mhm.
Francisco. Thank you so much. All our agents are appreciative of the time that you just gave us right now, and we'll be talking to you in the future.
You're welcome, and hope to see you in the world soon.
All right, take care. Thank you.
Take care, bye.
Bye. So and then it just close out after, just like that. No, that was good. Let me see if I have. I'm gonna try to also get into the My EXP app. Do you all have the My EXP app downloaded? Mm-hmm. Not when when you're in the main room, yes. Like in the lobby area,
Yeah.
they can hear you. And it's kind of trippy because you're hearing other people talk, so it doesn't seem very private. But once you go meet with them one-on-one, it's just the two of you. So that's when nobody else will hear you on that. Let me see if I can find the might take a little bit longer off of here, but I'll just I'm trying to do it off here. I can do it off my phone for the My EXP app, but the only problem with that is the people online won't be able to see it. You all will be able to see it on the TV. So I'm going to try to see if I can get here this way. Sign into Enterprise. So if you have your app, or if you don't have your app, just download it right now. It's My EXP app. You can go into the App Store and find it. But a lot of times the questions that I get, like, hey, where's the EXP buyer rep agreement? The one page, that's all on this app. So there's so much you can have access to if you can find this. So now I just got to see if I can find the My EXP. Here we go. So this is what it looks like online, and you can actually get to a little bit more when you go onto your laptop. You can do breakdowns. So if you're ever unsure of how you're getting paid, is the right split coming out, you want to be able to go to um just you can go through here and actually see what you're paid. Let's see, rev share earnings team icon program. Let me show you just go to the home screen first, because this is so at the bottom, there's if you're on your phone, there's three different little things that will move, and it looks like this. What's new? If you see it on the screen here. So that what's new, come join us in EXP World. That's how you can get to EXP World, just off a click. Then you got the buyer rep toolkit. There's a buyer rep toolkit and a seller rep toolkit. This buyer rep, you're going to go here there's buyer presentation. You got all kinds of good stuff on here. But for your resources, you can watch these videos, you can duplicate videos, why hire an agent, how do I choose an agent, right? And you can download the scripts and then record it yourself off of here. There's so much great stuff on here. But the biggest thing I do is I go through here and I download the single property form because this to me is the easiest, most straightforward buyer rep agreement. And you can make it, it's just easy. And it's like low pressure, it's straight, like you can read it to them and they can understand very clearly who's paying what percentage for the best experience, buyers encouraged to work exclusively with broker concerning the purchase of the property, to be accompanied by broker on the first visit of the property, and to conduct all negotiations for the property in good faith and exclusively through broker. Additional terms, other buyers, binding effect. So this is good enough for EXP, this one-page agreement. And I met somebody at a listing once with this, and he was very hesitant to signing anything. And then he's like, you know what? I'm just going to use your template anytime I'm trying to go see another agent and have them do this. I said, well, it's only going to work with EXP. I said, this is an EXP form that is a legal document that satisfies what EXP needs for us to be in compliance with the buyer rep agreement. And it's one page versus 13 pages on the car agreement, right? So that 13 pages is a lot for the very first time that you meet somebody. So this is a good way to start. And I always start with something like, I say, are you aware of the changes that happened since August 17th of last year? And they're like, yeah, no, I kind of know, or I've heard, and it's further away from it. Say, well, the laws actually changed now, where before an agent can actually show you property, that you have to have a buyer rep agreement signed. Now, there's different types of buyer reps agreements, right? There's some that are exclusive, some that are non-exclusive, some that are for a day, some that are up to 3 months, but it can never be more than 3 months, right? So if you like, I know we just met each other, but just so that I stay in compliance and nobody can find me for doing something illegal, right? I do need this form signed, and all it's saying is that if you are interested in the property that I'm showing you, that you agree that I will represent you on this property, and if you decide to write, I'm going to write the offer for you. Are you okay with that? And if you propose it like that, they should have no issue with signing that, right? You can make it non-exclusive. So if they're still checking properties out with other people, they're not in violation of that. So there's ways of taking the pressure off, at least for that first one, because that's the biggest hurdle of why people don't want to start working with you as an agent right out the gate. They don't even want to see a property because this is too much pressure too quick. So this form does a good job of segueing that, right? And we all know not everybody's doing what they should be doing. Doesn't mean that we should change our practices. We still got to protect ourselves. And the other good thing is the more comfortable you get with using this form or the buyer rep agreement in general, you're gonna read through the crap quick, right? Like you cut through it very fast and find out where they're at, whether they're interested in working with you or not. So you're having those, closing conversations a lot sooner. And if there's any issue or hesitation they have in working with you, you're going to discover those right away before you've spent months with somebody and then they just bail on you and go with somebody else. Doesn't mean that can't still happen, but it prevents some of that by having those talks. So does that all make sense? So you guys all know where to go to. I just wanted to make sure I showed you a few things on there. Play around with that My EXP app though. It's cool to check all your stuff out. And
I have a question, Brandon.
go
Um,
ahead, Lisha.
Is there a place we can go to access like forms for a transaction? For example, SkySlope used to have an app and I would, do my avids at the property really easy for my phone, but I don't think
Uh-huh.
they have it anymore. So I was wondering if you've come across anything like that where, we can write contracts from our phones or iPads.
So what I've done since I've been with EXP is Glide. Have you used Glide yet?
Oh, yeah, I used to use Glide in the past. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
familiar.
So they're very big on Glide. At least, when I work with Velma, she sends it to me every time for the Avid.
Okay.
And what's the other one? It's Avid. It's all your disclosures also. But the Avid, the reason why I like using Glide for Avid is you can take pictures and it asks you for it and then goes through it. And same with disclosures. Like sometimes for the seller, it's a little uncomfortable if you just send them the Glide link and they try to go through it. So I recommend that you try to either meet with them or walk them through it on the phone. But the good thing about Glide is you don't miss anything. It takes you step by step. And if you answer yes, you have to put an explanation is. And that's so important because if you don't do that the right way, you leave an opening for a buyer to be able to back out because you didn't complete disclosures. So Glide will ensure that you completely fill it out and do it as accurately as you can. And if you need to make edits and changes, it's not hard to do. So again, I mean, I know there's, I can speak openly. I know there's mixed feelings in terms of preference with TC, but for me with Vilma, she's great. I've figured her personality out, and we're good. And it keeps me on track so that I can handle multiple things at one time. But whoever you're working with TC wise, hopefully they have access to it. The other thing you can do is hop on the broker room and speak to somebody there and see if they have any type of checklist or system. I'm completely dependent on Vilma with her making sure she knows exactly what I need. And if have are you all familiar with SkySlope? Have you used SkySlope in the past? So compliance is pretty big on going through and noting everything that needs to be changed. If it's missing a signature, if you need the right form, if the form wasn't filled out correctly, they're on it. But sometimes you have to send an email to them to say, "Hey, I submitted everything. Can somebody check this out?" Right? So just know that if you're waiting for that to happen, because I've heard it come up from a few agents, and again, since I have Vilma, she's doing that constantly. She's on it. She's making sure that's all happening for me, so I don't have to do it. But for other agents doing their own files, you got to send an email out to EXP's compliance and then initiate and say, "Hey, I submitted these forms. Can you check this out?" And they'll get on it probably within the day or two, on that. So just knowing the little things, just like the tips the broker said, are really important. Did that answer your question, Lachelle?
Oh yeah, 100%. I totally forgot about Glide. It offloaded on from my phone, I guess, because
Uh-huh.
I hadn't used it in a while. So I'm
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I love that thing.
Good.
But
Good.
like I said, I had also switched to just doing it in zip forms, but now their app is gone.
Okay. The Zip Forms app is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, it's SkySlope's probably going to be your best bet in terms of your checklist, though. I would imagine they're going to have everything on there that you need that's required. From again, I'm rarely in there because I go through her, right? But if I were doing the file myself, SkySlope is where I would be looking at, and then I'd ask the broker questions. I'd hop on EXP World because when you get on EXP World and you speak to the brokers, they can pull up your SkySlope and they can go in and see actively real time what you have going on and they'll tell you, "Oh, you need this form, you need this, you didn't fill this out, make sure you get this in." So I'm telling you, it's a kind of support I've never seen before, and it's awesome. But it's we all have to learn how to do it and just get in there, play with it, and then you'll have everything that you need. But yeah, this buyer toolkit's really cool. A lot of great resources, and as if you saw on the forums, there's more than the one form, so you can still get into a little bit more depth if that's what you're looking for. But get familiar with that. Since you utilize the one pager, reference these scripts, learn to articulate your value proposition. You can download all the scripts, right? Make your own videos that you can send to people ahead of time, as you're meeting a new buyer before you're doing a showing, and you can already have a video so you don't have to explain it every single time. So just different things that you can do to start developing your process. So that was what I had planned for today was kind of going into what I do when I meet with a buyer, the buyer class that I teach, why that's so powerful for me, and how I capture a lot of business doing it. That was originally what I wanted to do, but I also wanted to see what the rest of you kind of what you had in mind or what challenges you're facing right now to make sure that I can train you, specifically to those things. So, anything else on this? Are you guys all pretty good? Everybody has the app, right? My EXP app. You're all going to be experts. Know how to track everything. Uh, you know about the referral network on there? Have you used it? Have you looked at it? It's powerful. You guys have to, if you haven't done it yet, go into the EXP referral. There's a tab for that. I think it's under tools. And just look real quick on here. But in, again, seconds, you can find agents in anywhere in the country that are part of the network, and you want to update your profile, make sure that you have all your information on there, your bio, your headshot, so that when people look up Camarillo, your picture pops up and they can send referrals. You don't send referrals the old school way, especially when you're doing EXP to EXP. You do it all through here. And you literally, it's so much easier than when we would pull up the car form, put the broker, the tax ID number, all those details. It's all off this app and it's quick. And you put whatever percentage you're going to offer them. I got a referral from somebody in Florida, gave him a 20% referral. That's all he asked for, it was 20%. And it led to a listing. It was pretty cool. Did it all through the app. He was all, no, it's a lot easier this way. So that was the first time I used it, but I believe it's under the tools section for that. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, is it just
Yeah.
doing that? Yeah, of course it's not working right now, but did you? The rest of us aren't being let in. Okay. All right, well, let's jump into that's a little bit more of the tech stuff then, but I wanted to make sure that we're all aware of it because I think that's going to save a lot of time. No problem. Hopefully it was helpful. All right, anything I guess before I jump into it, anything that would be helpful to all of you just with what you're doing right now? What challenges are you coming across? Yes. What do you got?
So, I've been out of the, like, realtor world, I guess, as far as like process
Uh-huh.
and like like we've done this now, like a checklist, I would say, of what
Right.
to do as a listing agent or as a buyer's agent.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be really helpful for me, because I've done it in the past, like,
Right.
I'm very cloudy as to what follows next,
Okay.
or what should be followed.
And so are you referring to you already have business or trying to get your business going again, or what part of it?
Business, like I already.
So you already have the listing, you already have,
a buyer.
you already have the
Our
buyer.
offer's already been accepted.
Okay, offers accepted, then what happens through the transaction?
Correct.
Okay, that's perfect. That's actually what I was gonna cover today. Like, so we can do that. Are you guys good with that? Jumping into that, is there anything else before?
So
We do
a
it.
question about the global referral.
Yep.
I looked at that and it looks like it's only geared toward like one agent referring to one agent. What if we have two agents referring to one agent? Like someone I partnered with, we sold the person's house.
Mhm.
Now we're gonna refer her to find an agent in Colorado. How do we both get, or is there a way?
Are you both with EXP?
Yes.
Okay, I've never heard of that before. That's the first. I'll probably check with the broker room just to see how they recommend to handle it. My guess is probably it's 1-to-1 and then you have a split agreement between the two of you and how you share it. And just so you know, when you do referrals or new construction, you still have to create a file on SkySlope. That's also something that a lot of people aren't aware of. So if you do new construction, and you go, are you all familiar with new construction? Just in terms of the process? Okay, so if you go to new construction and number one, you want to be the first one to be there with your client or your prospect. And so when you sign them in, if they go there first, you're not getting paid. And they're gonna say, nope, they already visited, so you're not, it doesn't matter if they're your client, doesn't matter if you have a buyer rep agreement, they're not paying you, right? So they handle it like a referral, but you go there, you sign them up, you give them your license number, your business card, sign up that person. Sometimes they'll have you registered on a website. And basically, especially right now when there's a lot more inventory that's sitting, before they try to get rid of these phases, they'll buy interest rates down. They offer all kinds of incentives. So if you aren't doing it yet, you want to start knowing what the new construction sites are around and what they're offering to cooperate with agents. And it's as high as 4% at times. So it's typically 2.5%, sometimes 2%, sometimes 3%, but it all depends on what the demand is. But in a market like this, where you have a little bit more inventory, they're definitely going to cooperate. When the market's super hot, they'll say, nope, we're not cooperating, period. So if your client goes and buys there, you're not getting paid, right? But so you just want to know that process. So if you do it on SkySlope, you have to start a new file, okay? So that's important. Lachelle, anything you have just in terms of challenges, questions, that would be helpful? And I'm only going to go over one topic right now, but anything that you have?
Nothing top of
You
mind
good?
right now. I've been in a lot of unique situations lately, but
Right. Okay.
yeah, I don't have anything top of mind at the moment.
So what I wanted to do, because I'm always just trying to think of, it's like, okay, if I'm a new agent starting out, or even if I've been doing this for a while, what's my process to get business, to generate business? What did I do early on to be confident that I can help people and represent them? And my way of learning was my dad teaching the homebuyer class. That was like our real estate school for all of our agents, and we had all brand new agents. We actually at the time, I think we grew to like 12 at first in the one office we had in Oxnard. We were right across from Olive Garden, the Auto Center Drive right there, next to, I think it was Happy Bowl and Subway. We were right in between the two of them. Ate a lot of Olive Garden over there. So now we have cronies, right? Um, but that was our education, was that. And also a big emphasis on learning the purchase agreement. And I would see my dad, and I was his transaction coordinator, so that also helped me learn the contracts pretty well, knowing what forms were required. What is a notice of buyer to perform? Newer agents, what's a notice of buyer to perform?
Essentially, if they try and pull out of the contract that's already been accepted, you can not force, but compel them through legal methods to actually follow through with the contract that they've signed.
That's close. That's almost like specific performance if we're talking on the legal side, right, of trying to enforce a contract. Notice of buyer to perform is typically what's this kind of a tool or a weapon, if you want to call it, like if we're playing a game, and what side is this, for the buyer side or the seller side for a notice of buyer to perform? Who uses it? The seller does, right? So the seller uses it. When would they use it?
When they're trying to keep him on track.
Trying to keep them on track. Yep, that's a good answer. What were you saying?
If the contingencies are up, but they haven't removed them, then you would give them a notice to perform and give them 3 days before they remove them. Or
Said 3 days?
isn't it 3 or is it 2?
How many days? You got it. We have to know it.
Unless you negotiate differently.
So the boilerplate is, no, it's okay. The boilerplate is 2 days, 48 hours. And believe me, you're not, I've talked to agents who do hundreds of transactions, think it's 3 days. It's 2 days, 48 hours. When does that time frame start? And so that's what I'm going to start with on this board. It might be hard for you to see, Lachelle. I'll see if I can try to do it in a way that many of you can. Can you all see it from here, or what's our best spot?
You go a little more in the frame, then we'll be able to see it.
Okay. You might be able to see it. Just try to draw it on there if you can. So if you got a piece of paper, this is how I always start when I do my home buyer class. Any of you that have seen them before, it's important to understand this process, but I'm drawing a timeline 0 to 30 days. Okay. Talked about a notice of buyer to perform. It's very important to understand when the contract starts. So if you have a purchase agreement, at the end of the purchase agreement where it says definitions, most people don't read that. That's very important. The reason why it's important is it talks about how you count days when it says days on the contract. Is it business days? Is it calendar days? Who thinks it's business days?
All except one is business days.
Which one?
Acceptance of offer
Okay.
starts, or EMD, excuse me, EMD.
Is what?
3 business days.
Okay.
And everything else is calendar.
There you go. That's correct. Is that what you were gonna say too?
Oh, no, I wasn't.
Okay, that's okay. I saw your hand go. So that's correct. So when it talks about days, earnest money deposit is 3 business days, right? So if the offer is accepted on Friday, when is that earnest money deposit due?
Wednesday.
And just remember, the day that the offer accepted is day what? Day 0. Okay, so we have day 0 here. So we have 3 business days. What's our next number when I put a 7 out there? What's 7 for? Newer agents. What's 7? Why would I put a 7 on there? What happens in 7 days?
7 days.
7 days, what's required in 7 days? So 3 days, 3 days is earnest money deposit. There's actually a couple other things that are 3 days, but we rarely talk about them, but EMDs are the big one, right? So on the top, I'm gonna put seller, on the bottom, I'm gonna put buyer. What's required? What else could be required in the first 3 business days, or the first 3 calendar days, actually, according to the contract? Because the only one that specified business is the earnest money deposit. What were you gonna say?
No, I was talking about the 7.
Okay, so what else could be required for the 3 days? What's that?
Seller disclosures.
7 days. So the 7 is seller disclosures. And again, this is boilerplate. Somebody mentioned if it's changed, you can drop it to 5 days. The notice file form is 2 days unless you change it to 3 days or 1 day, right? You can shorten it up, but nobody does that. Now, customarily in Ventura County, in our practice, people think that if you send a notice fileable form, that you are a mean word, right? And they'll say that, and they're like, that person's a, you know what, like they sent me a notice fileable form. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. That's how you protect your sellers, okay? So the key thing to understand with these contracts, what is a contingency? What's a contingency? How would you define a contingency? Lachelle, what do you got for me for contingency? What's your definition? Did I lose you? This is a good time to take your video off. How would you define a contingency, Lachelle?
That's the period in which you have to do your due diligence or for whatever the case may be. And the contingency period is the deadline for that to be done.
Okay, I like that explanation. So you said the period of time to do your due diligence, right? Your contingency period, and this is as agent to agent talk. This is very common that people say, okay, what's the contingency period? For all contingencies to remove, day 17 is typically our magic number, unless that gets changed, right? So I like that definition, but there's other definitions of contingency. What were you gonna say?
Way out of the contract.
A good faith excuse out of the contract. That's the shortest, most simplest way. A contingency, and this was an attorney who defined it this way, is a good faith excuse out of the contract. Are there multiple contingencies in a typical RPA? What are some of those contingencies? What was that? Home inspection. So you have an inspection contingency that has multiple prongs to it or multiple parts to it, but there's an inspection. What else? Appraisal. What other contingencies? There's a loan, right? Insurance. What else?
About HOA.
HOA.
Buy or sell of property.
Could be the sell, right? The sell of property. So home sale. Any other ones that you can think of? Those are good. So all of those are good faith excuses out of the contract, right? So buyer gets their offer accepted, never submits their earnest money deposit and has a change of heart. What do they lose?
Well, is it during the contingency still?
But yeah, it's day 2, day 3, day 5. They never put an earnest money deposit in. Do they have the right to cancel? Should be the first question. Yes, they do. How do they have the right to cancel?
Because they have like 7 days or 14 days that they can, without penalties, get out of a contract. Is it 14 days?
So there's typically the 17-day contingency period, right? So if you have 17 days after your offer is accepted, this is all important to understand to be able to explain to your buyer, to get them to write an offer, to take the pressure off. You tell them, I will say things like, well, all we're trying to do right now is secure the property, right? We want to make it where that seller has to sell this home to us. So if we write an offer, we actually have nothing to lose, everything to gain by submitting an offer. I don't even need to send a check with the offer. I don't have to put any money in the bank if it's on a Friday, right? Until what day? Wednesday. By what time? 5 o'clock, usually for escrow, but what about contingency period or the notice filed before? And when can that go out? So there's So it's actually, you have till midnight, you have till 11:59 on that third day, right? So timing is important to understand, and people don't know this. Been doing it for 30, 35 years, and I'll get the call like, okay, so we sent it on Saturday at 12 o'clock. Does that mean that it goes till Sunday, Monday at 12 o'clock? Is that when it's due? And this is for not an earnest money, just a regular notice fireable form. Is that when I have the right to cancel? Or they sent it to me on Saturday at 12 o'clock. What time do I need to,
I was told it's.
can they cancel?
Yeah, I was told it's business days.
It's not correct.
No.
It's 11:59. So always remember when that time frame, when that gets sent out, it goes to 11:59. So you can't, as a seller, cancel a contract. The buyer has many ways out. So I explain it like, okay, there's like 10 different doors that are wide open that a buyer can walk out of any of these. Because think of it, the state of California is trying to protect who's taking the risk, the seller or the buyer? Or the bigger risk, I should say. The buyer, why?
They might,
We don't know.
they might lose their deposits or they might enter into some kind of contracts.
They could lose their deposit. What else could the buyer, I mean, why is the state of California more protective of the buyer over the seller?
I mean, the seller knows what they're selling, the buyer has no idea, so they need time to figure out what's what, basically, like what the property is before they make a decision.
Do you know in the state of Washington, it's buyer caveat, you know what that means? Buyer beware.
Yeah.
So it's like buying a car. They don't have a duty, an affirmative duty to disclose in Washington, Idaho. Idaho's similar, and they don't want California's ways up there. Believe me, I heard about it in law school as they spoke to us and were like, we don't care how you do it in California. Like this was a judge who was a practicing California, or not California, real estate Idaho judge. And she was like, we could care less how you do it in California. Like just shutting it down. I was like, well, that just sounds shady. So how do I know if it's a multiple offer or not? You guys don't have a form that's different? They're like, no. They could just say they have multiple offers. I was like, wow, that's crazy. They didn't have a duty to disclose. So what we need to know, though, as we explained to sellers, is sellers here have an affirmative duty to disclose any what? What do they have a duty to disclose?
Knowledge, what is the other word?
Any negative aspects of the home or any aspects
Any
of the home.
material,
That's the word. Material what?
fact.
Facts. Remember material facts. You have an affirmative duty to disclose material facts as a seller. So when I write on top, seller, if I'm keeping it simple, seller has a duty to disclose material facts.
Hey, Brandon,
Yes.
what is a material defect?
See, that's a great question. That's what attorneys get paid a lot of money to try to define it and interpret what a material fact is. My understanding of material fact is anything significant enough that affects the value of the home or the desirability of the property is a material fact, right? The safe way to describe it, and as you're advising your sellers, similar to what Ken said in a previous training, if they have to ask you, should I disclose this? The answer is always yes, right? If it's enough for them to think, and I always explain it, if you were a buyer purchasing your property, what would you want to know about it? And if we do that and we disclose all that, and they're always afraid of what? What are they afraid if they disclose these things? What do they think is going to happen? We don't want to scare the buyer. When I bought the house, they didn't do all this. They didn't disclose all this. I remember very early in my career, I had this gal who was much older than I was, and she was just like, oh my gosh, like really? You pointed out the stain in the bottom of the sink? And like, it's like you're trying to kill this deal. And then she tells me later, I have high blood pressure. You know, I'm like, well, you should have told me that beforehand. But my job, and this is before I went to law school, is to disclose anything and everything that I know. The one way we protect ourselves is what form? What do we do in every transaction? This is getting to your question. What is it?
Everything's written.
It's written. What document do we use? So, Avid. The agent visual inspection disclosure. It's first, you have a duty. You have a fiduciary duty. What's it bless you? Are your season? What's a fiduciary duty? How would you describe a fiduciary duty? You mute that, whoever's got. Thank you. Go ahead.
To your client? you mean?
Yeah, just what is a fiduciary duty? How do you explain it? What form talks about the fiduciary duty when you're doing an offer?
AD.
What is the AD? For the newer agents, I want to hear from you, and it's this. What's that?
Agent disclosure.
Yeah, disclosure regarding agency relationships. Okay, what's on that form? Can anybody visualize and cite what are the three main parts of the disclosure regarding agency relationships? That's just one side. No, it's not that.
So who's representing you? The relationship between the representation?
So homework for everybody that, especially if you haven't done this in a while, is look up 80. And it used to be 8011. That was the last time that it was updated, but it's changed since then. It's probably 8020 now, or 8025, or however it's been defined. This form by statute is required for the agent to go over this before they do an offer or listing agreement. The good news for all of you is it auto populates when you pull up a residential listing agreement. It's the very first form. But when you have your very first meeting, even before doing a buyer rep agreement, you should learn this form and learn how to go through it in detail with your client. And it'll make them feel much more comfortable with you as their agent, because you speak about what it means to be a buyer's agent and what it means to be a listing agent and a dual agent, as Sean was starting to refer to, if you represent both sides. And you have that conversation, and it talks about your fiduciary duty to work with the utmost care and respect, to be honest in your dealings with the client. All that's on there, talking about it. And what do you think it does to the client as you explain these things to them? It does, and it makes them feel like you should try to handle this like a professional. That was one of the best things that I learned at law school, was how they operate and how they handle things, and it's called informed consent, where everything's in writing, where they give you notice. That's how the contract. It's what the notice of article form is, and it's an active contract, meaning it's not a passive contract. So after 17 days, all your contingencies aren't just gone because 17 days went up. What do we have to do in order for our contingencies to be removed? We have to sign what? What's the form? The CR form, contingency removal. So these are all things that every single one of you should all feel very confident and comfortable with. Does that make sense? Like, it should be, okay, no, it's the AD form, right? The AD form is the very first one that we go over with our clients. And the more you do this and the more you feel comfortable with this, now when you speak with people at an open house or you take them to multiple properties, you're asking them questions like, so is this your first purchase? Yes, it is. That's wonderful. I love helping first-time home buyers. We should teach a class. Would that be something you might be interested in? Well, I don't know yet, right? So I got to work on them a little bit. Well, did you know there's down payment assistance programs out there for first-time buyers? Well, I owned one before, but I just went through a separation. Well, actually, you can still qualify as a first-time buyer, even if you owned a home a year ago and you just literally went through a divorce 6 months ago, you qualify as a first-time home buyer. Most people don't know that, right? So all these little things say, well, that's the reason why we need to get together, and you set that buyer rep agreement. Then you're going to do this timeline, and you're going to put for the seller's duties to disclose material facts. Guess what the buyer's duty is through the transaction? What are they going to do?
Due diligence.
Yeah, they're going to do their due diligence. It's a good word, but what does that mean? Investigate. What else are you going to do? Research, ask questions, right? Check if you need to look at on permits, whatever you need to do. That's all going to be during that, what Lachelle talked to at the beginning, the contingency period. Okay. You also have multiple words or definitions for escrow. Okay. What is escrow? How do you define escrow, Sean?
Escrow is a neutral third party.
Perfect. Neutral third party, right? Escrow is a neutral third party that does what?
Pays for the finances.
Takes care of the finances. What else did I do?
It
What's that?
navigates it navigates the transaction and makes it go smoothly. make sure that both sides are submitting what they both need to submit.
Okay, and so both sides, so the buyer and the seller, right? Escrow is neutral third party, all words you want to use. Escrow is a neutral third party who facilitates the transaction. They try to keep people on timelines. They speak to the buyer's agent, the seller's agent, the buyer directly, the seller directly. Who else do they speak to? Huh? Your transaction coordinator if you have TCs. Who else do they speak to? Title, the lender, right? They're, I always envision like an octopus with all these arms out, and they are the one in conversation with everything and facilitating everything from beginning to end. So when we say escrow, what else is the definition of escrow? Not just a neutral third party who helps us. What else is escrow?
I always describe them as kind of like PayPal,
Uh-huh.
where they're taking care of the money from one side
Mhm.
independently and the buyer from the other side, so that they're constantly being completely independently taken care of between this neutral third party.
And it's also a safe place for the escrow, the earnest money deposit to be submitted to, because it's not going directly to the seller or to the buyer, and we don't touch it, right? We always have that money go directly to escrow. Even if your client's like, here, let me leave you the check. Why do we not want to touch that check? What do we need to do if we touch that check and give it to a title rep? What do we need to do? What are you supposed to have? What kind of paperwork? What kind of law?
Yeah, I can't be
Is it
really.
like a trust law or something?
Trust fund book, trust fund log, right? We would have to have a trust fund log here that says who the check is made out to, where it's going, when it was dropped off, when it was put in. And if we don't have that, guess what that is?
Big no.
Huge violation. A chance to lose your license, a chance for everything. It's commingling potentially. It's huge, and these are big things that take agents down and brokerages down. Never touch money from your client. And that's why even when people are like, oh, it's just a small little rental check, like it's not, it's like $200. Why would I put that through EXP? Because you don't want to get in trouble. It's not worth losing your license over a couple $100. Let them take whatever their split is. They're again, kind of like you talk about with Venmo or any other like have or PayPal, have it all go through EXP with the broker. And even if you're a broker and you have your broker's license, do you have your own E&O? Are you running your own office? Yes.
I think actually from one of the contracts classes with Debbie Penny, I think she said we should never take the deposit, like EXP specifically, especially because they're a cloud-based business.
Of
We
course.
don't have trust accounts, so we shouldn't ever take it. It should go straight.
That's what we said while you were out
Okay,
there.
cool. Excuse
Yep.
me.
No,
That
you're
fucks
good.
up.
That's what we said.
Okay.
But what I'm saying now is never take any money, especially even if a client wants to just give you a bonus, right? You got to be careful with that stuff. You got to be careful, and they'll try to come up with creative ways like, oh, yeah, well, let's save money on the commission and we'll just pay you out. You don't want any of that. You don't want to touch any of that. You never want money going directly to you. Always have it going through EXP. That's what I'm referring to there. With what you brought up with the earnest money deposit, as agents, we never touch it. We always tell our client to deposit it directly. They wire the money over. They can drop off a personal check. With some escrow companies, you got to check with the escrow officer. Some escrow companies will not take personal checks. They won't. They want, or sometimes they'll want a cashier's check. Sometimes they want something different, but typically wire is their preference. There are certain escrow companies that will make exceptions. This is why you have to develop relationships with these teams to know what's going on. Okay, so let me get through the rest of these so we can just at least hear the timeline. 3 days earnest money deposit. 7 days was what again? Seller disclosures. So remember seller disclosures. And what if we take longer than 7 days? What happens? What does that create for the buyer? What?
It bumps out the timeline.
How many days do they have? So say they give it to them on day 16, they give disclosures to the buyer on day 16. Does now that buyer have to disclose or remove all their contingencies on day 17? How many days do they get? 5 days. 5 days from any late disclosure. So if you have incomplete disclosures or you check the yes box and you don't use Glide and you don't leave an explanation, if I have a sneaky agent on the other side, I don't need to say anything. I don't need to tip the other side off. I want to create an out. Even though I removed all my contingencies, I created an opening where they can cancel and keep their earnest money deposit. So just to be clear, and we can't give advice on earnest money deposit and saying, oh, I can guarantee I'm going to get your money back. We can't say that, right? But what we do with our experience is we make sure that we have a good faith excuse. So if we remove all of our contingencies other than our loan, right? And the appraisal comes in short. And they say, well, we want you to cover the difference with that appraisal shortage. Can we cancel that transaction based off that loan contingency still being available because it's tied to the loan? What was that?
Yes,
You think yes? Why do you think yes?
I think that you can, I think you can cancel up to the time that that all contingencies they're not removed. You can still figure out ways to get out of the transaction all the way up until that last contingency is removed.
That's what a lot of people do think.
I'm gonna say no.
What were you saying? No?
I'm gonna say no.
Why no, Lachelle?
Because the appraisal and the loan
Mhm.
contingency are separate for a reason. And if the buyer has the capacity to come up with the difference and they've already removed their appraisal contingency, then they have it, hopefully, if their agent explained it to them, have already agreed essentially to cover the difference.
Mhm.
Unless they don't have it and it now hinders them from getting the loan, it has to directly impact their ability to get the loan if they've already removed the appraisal contingency and the loan contingency is still in place.
That's why it's called a good faith excuse out of the contract. Now, people can argue that the loan is tied to the appraisal. So because the appraisal came in short, now we can no longer afford or get the loan, which what Lachelle said is spot on both scenarios, right? If the buyer has the ability to come up with the money, then they can't use that as the way out of the contract. You need a loan denial. You need to show that the loan that you were approved for was denied. And if you have that, now you have a good faith excuse out of the contract. But you can't act in bad faith now and just try to kill the deal. That's why it's called a good faith excuse out of the contract. So you have to understand that when you're removing contingencies, like I'm not going to bring up specifically who the agents were. I've been managing for quite some time, so I've worked with all different types of agents, right? The ones who drove me nuts are the ones who would remove contingencies because they wanted to be the nice guy or the nice gal. And always like, oh, we're all playing nice in the sandbox. So they're just, oh, yeah, let's take this out. Let's do this. Oh, well, it took long enough. And they would literally remove contingencies and always end up in a situation where they're calling me up. We already removed all. I'm asking the question, have you removed all contingencies? Yeah. Why'd you do it? Well, they gave us a few extra days. I don't care. I've had it where I've had all my contingencies available till the closing day, right? So I don't just willy-nilly start removing all contingencies. Now, I'm not going to be a pain in the butt either, because you got to remember that just because you may be advocating for your client and always protecting your client, people remember. So if you're making the other side stressed out and they're doing their part and you're not removing contingencies and doing your part, then those agents are going to remember that as well. And it could hurt you for getting future offers accepted. So it's a dance, and I don't want to call it a game, but it is. You got to know the rules of the game to know how to protect your client. Then you got to know how to make sure you button everything up, right? If you're on the seller side, you need to make sure you're doing disclosures on time. What's one of the things that will typically delay, and this is for all agents, will typically delay the transaction that is a common seller situation that people sometimes forget needs to happen? There's something that comes in later that typically takes a little bit more time that people forget or agents forget to tell their sellers, hey, you got to do this. It's the HOA. So there's upfront fees every time there's a condo with an HOA, or it could be a house with an HOA. There's upfront fees that the seller has to pay. When do they have to get that out? How many days after the offer is accepted? 3 days. So you have to tell your clients that And you'll find out, and if you don't know, call your escrow officer. Typically, sellers are picking, the listing agents are picking the escrow officer. That's common as well, right? So I'm going to call my escrow officer, or I'm going to shoot them a message. Hey, find out what the upfront fees are so I can let my client know what they need to cut a check out for. It could be $150, it could be $300, $500. But if that doesn't happen early, right? If you don't do it early, and it happens at like 2 weeks, that can take an additional week plus to get those docs. It's happened. It happens to a lot of people. And when that doesn't happen, guess what? Now that buyer has all this time to now get it. And then how many days do they have after they receive the docs? 5 days to be able to pull out of the transaction. You think there's something I can find in the CC&Rs to get out of a transaction? Very easy. That's a good faith excuse out of the contract. You get what I'm saying? So even when your buyer's like, oh, I need this, I need disclosures, why haven't they said? I tell them, calm down. We need to make sure what I'm concerned is your loan going through. So I need as much time as I can to have extra time in case I get a hardcore agent who knows their contract on the other side saying, hey, I'm going to send you that notice file to perform. And this is a big point I want to make sure you all know. How early can you send the notice file to perform? Say the time frame is let's do a buyer one, 17 days, right? 17 days is when all contingencies are due. And I got a seller who's moving to New Mexico and they have to get moving trucks. They need to pay for a lot of repairs to be done at the property, right? When am I going to start doing all those things? When is that earnest money at risk? When does it go at risk? First question. When's the earnest money at risk? When all contingencies are physically removed. You send a form in that says CR, all contingencies removed. Now the earnest money is at risk. And your client needs to know that. Okay. That means that they're all in. The loan's been approved. What do we want to hear from the lender before we remove the loan contingency? Clear to close. Okay, it's called a clear to close. Write this down. If you don't know what a clear to close is, find out what a clear to close is. Okay, what's a clear to close? What does that mean?
You got everything you needed, everything's good, it's finish line time, we're good. We got an underwriter approval.
The underwriters had everything submitted and every condition has been met for a clear to close. Now, sometimes they have certain conditions that are minimal conditions that can only happen right before funding. Other times it's called pre-doc conditions, right? Those are the loan docs. Loan docs is when we get in that final stretch. Usually in the last 7 days is loan docs, okay? So you, on a seller side, listing side, when we get to where they're removing all contingencies, good agents will say, well, I need to hear the clear to close. They'll say, so let me check with the lender. So that's why it's so important to have a strong lender relationship. That's why it's so important to have a strong escrow officer. These are pieces that help control your outcome so that you know who you're speaking to get the right answers. And the person who gets all the information wins in this game. Okay. So you have to control certain parts to make sure that you increase your chances. And you got an escrow officer who doesn't want to lose your business and is going to let you know, hey, they're taking a while on this loan. And, it's kind of, they're not asking me for these certain amounts that they need to know before they do the loan docs. And we don't have loan docs in. So then I'm going to start pressing and I can send a notice file to perform if I need to. Okay. So getting back to that original question of when you can send it, I heard somebody say before when the time frame, is that what you're going to say?
No, I was gonna say day 15.
Day 15. Why day 15?
Because they have 48 hours if it's due on the 17th day.
That's the right answer. So you don't have to wait till the time frame's up. You can send it 2 days early. And if it's due on the 17th day, you send it 2 days prior to. That's like being hardcore, like showing I'm not playing around. Day 17, you better have it. So before you just start, pulling guns out and blazing fire, right? And start sending notice fires to perform. Call me up if you've never done it before, or you're unsure if you should do it or not. Let's talk through the situation. Okay. Call Ken up, call myself, call any of the agents in this office, call Nisa, call, people who have done it, and they'll say, you know what, I don't know if I would send it yet. I'd probably call the other agent, ask them some questions first. And if they don't do anything by the end of Friday at 5 o'clock, then that notice fire performs coming. Okay. But you have to do these things because if you just trust and hope that they do their job, It's not gonna happen. And if you're not pressing them or staying on top of it, they're not gonna remove their contingencies. They're gonna get all the way through that process. You're gonna be 3 weeks in. Your client's gonna pay for movers and every other thing, and then all of a sudden, oh, our loan didn't go through. Well, why didn't you find that out 3 weeks ago? Right? We already started moving. We already started doing all these things. So reality, what happens? Buyers are really interesting in this market. The buyer on the beachside property already switched his loan. We were already 2 weeks into escrow. Switched it. Didn't care. He oh yeah, I can pay cash. And again, it's like, do I want to send a notice of buyer reform or do I got to just keep talking to this other agent? So finally, I'm like, all right, well, you got till Friday. Friday, they got the loan all figured out. We got the appraisal order. It's happening today. That's 2 weeks into escrow.
They said they were a cash buyer at first.
No, they said loan,
Okay.
but she's been transparent from the beginning. That's why I trust her and I keep giving her time. And again, she's getting 3% commission. She wants to get paid, right? So she was like, believe me, I want to get it done. I said, I know, but I got to protect my clients here. So if these things don't happen, we're going to flip it to active status, put it subject to cancellation of existing escrow, and then, put it back active status and do open houses. So no, I get it. I said, all right. And then she's hitting me up on Friday. Hey, we got it approved. Everything's worked out. The appraiser's going to be in touch. Hour later, the appraiser calls me up. How about Tuesday? It's like, cool. Sounds good. So that's happening today. But again, you can't just assume everything's working. Does that make sense? That's why we have to know these time frames. Okay. So we said 17 days, all contingencies removed. We had that conversation with the lender on the clear to close. Day 25, why did I put 25 up there? What's important about 25? 5 days prior to close of escrow. What do you think is one of the last things we have to do? VP. What's a VP? Not you, Anissa, but what's a VP? Verification of property. And what is that? What are we doing there?
You're the final, final law.
And you do it within how many days of close of escrow? 5? 5 days. And do we do it on close of escrow? Why not?
Because it's too late. You have to get through there, and I explain it that, I just want to make sure that the property is in relatively the same condition it was when you purchased it.
Right. That's a great way to say. So first you got to future pace the client so they don't think that this is a typical landlord tenant move in, move out form where you're marking every single nick and everything on the wall. I said it by saying typically takes about 15 minutes to do the final walkthrough. I want to set it as that so they don't think we got 30 minutes to an hour to sit there. And in reality, I'll give them a little bit more time. But I'm going to say it's 15 minutes. We go in, we check to make sure the condition looks similar to when we first came in and we checked out the property and wrote the offer. It's got to look similar to that condition. Now, obviously, they moved everything out. They moved paintings, so they're going to have some holes. But we just want to make sure there's no major holes in the walls, toilets missing, anything crazy, right? So I set that expectation. Now, if we did what I didn't talk about during the transaction, what else can you negotiate before the VP and double check on the VP? What else can we negotiate?
Oh, fixtures.
Fixtures?
Fixtures, appliances, furniture.
We can negotiate in the original contract that, right? Whether things are included or not. And fixtures are typically included. What fixture is an attachment, right? So that's typically included with the sale of the property. Curtains is a big one that sellers will take. Is a curtain considered a fixture? No?
The rod is.
The rod is?
Not.
Curtains and the rods are supposed to stay.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Most don't. And that's a common issue that will come up. So you got to tell your sellers that. I had to do it just recently in a Fillmore property that I sold. And they had already removed the rods and the curtains. And it was a Redfin agent. This guy, I got to say, was one of the best Redfin agents I've worked with. And he was just on it. He's like, hey, I'm just getting a little concerned because I see the curtains were removed. And he's like, I'm not trying to make a big deal. He's like, my clients haven't said anything, but I just don't want us to show up on the VP and find that all the curtains are removed and other things that are taken out of the property, right? That are supposed to be going with the sale of the home. So most people don't know that about curtains and rods. Rods are fixtures, they are attached, but the curtains are considered an attachment as well. Most people don't think it, and they want it, but it's been something that has been settled. The other is TV brackets. If they remove the TV brackets, they have to patch the holes in the walls. So it's the same with the curtain rods, but you need to put it in the offer or the counter offer, whether this stuff is excluded or not. So it's the most important stuff to have that conversation. It's not the last time, but it's when you have the most leverage as a seller and a buyer to get those things situated. Your next chance is when you do the optional request for repairs, which when I say optional, it's done 90, probably 9% of the time. We're doing a request for repairs. Even if it's an as is sale, we're still probably doing some form of request for repairs. Okay, are you all familiar with request for repairs? That's during your due diligence period before you remove your inspection contingency. Okay, any other questions as we talk about the process? Does that kind of sum it up from beginning to end? Cool. Any other questions to anybody else? Just in terms of what we went over? Yes.
That, when I was first doing transactions, solar really held me up. And in one case, it held us up, and we had a late close.
Yeah.
So now I'm uber quick on getting onto solar because a lot of it is the seller's responsibility to contact their solar company and get that transfer.
Right.
So I just would like to throw that out there for anybody.
That's a great point. Solar is always a huge red flag for you as a buyer's agent, and going on a listing appointment. Again, don't jeopardize getting the listing because you make it such a big deal, but you need to emphasize the complexities of solar and how it can kill a deal. It can kill the deal, it can delay closing, it can kill it because solar companies go out of business, they go bankrupt. And then it's not under warranty anymore. How do you transfer it? Now you got to buy it. All these different complex, there's certain ones. Have you heard of PACE? Does everybody know what PACE is? A PACE lien. PACE lien is these certain people that'll go door to door trying to knock for solar. And they say, oh, well, you're going to get a tax credit. You're going to save in your taxes or we'll bill you through your property taxes. It's tied to your taxes and is a nightmare. And it still takes it takes like another year for it to transfer out for your new buyer. So it adds extra issues there, but PACE, be very careful with something with PACE. If you hear the word PACE, just remember my head, okay, there's big red flag on something that's a PACE solar and it's tied to the taxes. And so when they start explaining, oh yeah, it's, we paid through it through our property taxes, our taxes went up a little bit. Based off that, that's all this creative stuff for solar that can be a nightmare. Yes.
So, so say seller has a list of things that he wants to exclude from, so you put it in the MLS, like, oh, chandelier or whatever. So I'm just
Yeah.
making sure everyone's, and to see what you just talked
Uh-huh.
But, so say chandelier and a couple other things. So you put it in the MLS that's excluded.
Uh-huh.
So when you get the offer,
Right.
make sure that you're excluding those same things that you say excluded the MLS, and don't just take for granted that just because you said in the MLS means that it's because the MLS is not a contract, correct? So you have to reiterate it through the counter.
Absolutely. No, it's a huge point. The crappy thing is from the MLS, you can be liable as the agent. So, as misrepresenting something or saying something like really, square footage is a big one. And a lot of times we don't know it. So in the private remarks, there's public remarks and private, that's just for the agents. In the private remarks, we always put buyer to verify square footage, bedrooms, permits, all those details. It's very important to put that in there. Because if the square footage is off on the tax records, you don't want to be liable. And they said that they paid too much money or not, they're not going to say they didn't pay not enough, but there literally has been lawsuits both ways on that. So your MLS is to try to market and attract it, to try to represent it the proper way. But as you said, in terms of what's contractually obligated is what's on the actual purchase agreement and the counter. Yeah. So don't just rush through these counters. Go through with a highlighter and highlight everything that may be something questionable to have that conversation with your client. You got to spend the time. Then you also want to put in extra protections. Solar, you want to bring up solar. Make sure solar is a part of the contract. Because if you don't, then who does what? And you opened escrow. Is the buyer supposed to assume the loan? Is the seller supposed to pay off the loan? What do we do? You think that buyer's gonna say, oh yeah, I'll just assume it? I've actually had a transaction where I missed it as the listing agent and didn't put it into the counteroffer. But I also knew I had a situation where they were gonna want the house and it was really good terms, but still, I missed it. And I didn't put it in the counteroffer. Thankfully, that it was actually the same Redfin agent. He's like, yeah, no, we want it. We definitely want the solar, and it's like $90 a month. It's a great setup, and it's gonna save them money. It's a benefit. Home's like 3 years old, huge benefit. But what if I didn't have that situation? That could have been a major mistake. That likely would have just jeopardized the transaction. I probably wouldn't have got sued for it, but it probably would have fell out of escrow. And we did have the conversations. I just didn't tighten it up on the counter. Does that make sense? So these are things to be very careful with. Lachelle, anything you got? You still on here, Lachelle, Steve? Any questions you guys have or any feedback?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
So, in the seller's duty to disclose defects, not to be married or anything, is that also when they disclose death on the property?
Correct. Yeah, that's when you go through, what are the two main forms for seller disclosures? TDS and SPQ. So transfer disclosure statement, which one's required by state law and which one's a good practice? TDS or SPQ? By law. TDS required by law. There are some transactions that are exempt from TDS. Okay, so you want to know the list of those, and you can pull them all up on Car Legal. So Car Legal has like a disclosure chart of when you use TDS and when it's exempt. I know this stuff is not the most exciting. So you guys are struggling through it, but important things I want to make sure that we're at least touching on at one point, and then you all need to dig deeper in what we're talking about, right? Little marks on it. TDS required by state, SPQ feel like it's required by state, because that SPQ is going to be the biggest thing that asks more questions to get the seller to disclose everything. Okay, so I don't think I've done a transaction since the SPQ came out that I didn't do an SPQ on every single transaction. These are ways that you protect your clients and yourself. And then you as an agent, every time you represent a buyer, do which form? What's the first one?
Agency disclosure.
So agency disclosure to start with. Then what's the form that we're going to do during the disclosure period? Representing a buyer. What is it? What's that? What was it? Avid. Remember Avid? Don't ever miss an Avid. And don't just put nothing noted. We'll do another class where we talk about Avid. I'll try to sum it up quick. Don't write nothing noted. Always point out, like if you see paintings on the wall, if you see carpet on the floor or rug, because when that painting comes off, there could be a hole behind it. There could be cracks behind it. When that rug comes up, there could be something there. So you want to know that you visually looked. It's just the agent visual inspection. You're not testing. The home inspector does all the testing. You're just looking. You're not opening doors. You're not moving shower curtains or anything. Just what you see. Go and just note everything that you see. And be pretty vague, not so specific on that. You don't say pin size hole on the wall, or you get a little bit more general and say holes on the wall. HOLE in parentheses S, right? So it could be one hole or it could be multiple holes. So again, if you just have any questions, send me the Avid. I'll look over it and then tell you, hey, make sure you add a little bit more to show that you actually walked all the way on the interior, all the way on the exterior. That's why that glide's great. Take pictures. And then you got pictures on the bottom that it puts almost like in a home inspection report. You do your disclosures of what you wrote. Then you take pictures, especially if I see things that I want to cover my butt. I'm taking a picture of that crack and then I'm going to put it on that glide.
When it says crack though, you're not, like, don't use too many adjectives.
No.
So just put crack.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Crack or cracks, right? Could be one, could be multiple.
Right.
We're not saying
Huge.
massive crack or settlement crack
Huge.
and trying to minimize it. Settlement crack, or we're not experts of what type of crack this is.
Foundational.
Right. We don't. But people they try too much. On a form like that, we're not. And these are what attorneys have taught us in the past. So I know I'm giving the right advice with it, but you'll see a lot of Avids that say nothing noted, nothing noted, nothing noted. Then when you see that, and don't challenge it, And don't make it a big issue for your client. This is another thing that I see agents make a mistake of is agents want to be the hero and talk bad about the other side and say how much better they are than the other side. Don't do that. Because what happens is your clients start looking at the other side as the enemy. And they start looking at the other side like, you know what, screw them. I'm out. Let's kill this transaction. I don't want to sell it to them. This is our, like, people do it all the time. And it's, again, I've worked with a lot of agents, not just in transactions, but in, you know, mentoring them or managing them and hearing what comes up. And it's like, oh, they're doing this. And I know they're trying to do this and they're being shady about this. It's like, get off your high horse, first of all, right? And just start, you protect yourself, even if you think those things. Our job is to be the calming force with our clients, right? Like, yes, I mean, I was raising my clients' blood pressure when I was 23, 24 years old, right? Probably a little bit unnecessary nitpicking on all these little things, but my intention was in the right place. And now, knowing what I know, I'd have that conversation ahead of time and say, hey, look, this is what I'm going to do. Doesn't mean that you're saying, yes, these things are wrong with the property. You're just acknowledging that I did what I was supposed to do for my job and you received a copy of it, right? The deal didn't fall out. We closed the transaction. Everything worked out. But if I would have just been listening to her, then we wouldn't have disclosed everything. And who knows what could have came back. Nothing ever came back on us. You get what I'm saying? So it's, in some situations, you almost want to disclose so much like you're trying to kill the deal. That's the best way you're going to cover yourself. And in reality, when people really want the home, no matter what's written on there, it's going to be pretty hard. You know, April, off the one,
Yeah.
we had a spiritual encounter at our property. She legitimately talked about some activity that was going on in her home, and we disclosed it. And that home sold 200,000 over asking price.
And how many agents told you not to disclose?
Oh, everybody, including her sister, including everybody out there, like, don't do it. You didn't see anything, did it? She already, actually, I did see something. She showed me the candle with the freaking knife or the envelope over straight through it. She had that thing wrapped up in 2 bags. I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, is that going to be your housewarming gift to the new buyers as it comes in? Right? But before we accepted their offer, I called the agent up, and she's a good agent. And I called her up and I said, hey, I know this sounds crazy, but this happened. And she encountered some activity like 20 years ago, right? But it's going to be on the disclosures. I'm giving you a heads up about it. They talked to their pastor, and I love what the pastor's response was, but he said, look, there's nothing on this world that Jesus Christ isn't stronger than. He said, you're good. And they were good and went through with it. But just telling you, if I can have the guts to disclose something like that, I'm not saying it for any type of acknowledgement other than do the right thing and make sure you put it out there. If it kills the deal, it wasn't supposed to happen, right? And something would have came back. There were neighbors talking about it. It's in this certain part of the Heights. I don't know if you guys do want to know more or not know more.
Yeah.
Once you know, you have to disclose. You know, Les is like, shut up, don't say anything else. Marvin's like, don't tell me anything else.
Well, that's a first, that's a,
Never heard about it in the Heights?
I don't know. I don't
So
think
there's stuff in that, if you talk to, do you want to know the street?
Yeah.
Okay, well, remember the property I had on, it was North Loop. So you know where North Loop's at, right? So the houses down on the bottom had dishes moving and activity happening down there. She had some stuff happening in her house, but it's just interesting. I'll just leave it at that. The only thing I witnessed, we were all talking, we were having wine too. So I gotta say that. We're drinking wine, so it could have been the wine. We're sitting there and I'm next to her sister. She gets up and leaves. And it had been, 30 seconds to a minute, and this pillow's just sitting there. And just out of nowhere, it's like, bam. It's like, what just happened? We're both looking over like, nah, it was leaning or something and must have just fell, just late to fall. That was one thing that, it was interesting. We both looked at each other and went, oh, like, didn't see that. It just happened right now. It's nothing crazy. My dad, he had an interesting one where they walked in and the buyer was like, oh no, I'm just getting a weird vibe in this place. And they go out back and there's like, I think it was a cross that was like burned into the grass or something crazy out in the backyard. And when they came back in, pillow in the middle of the freaking middle of the room as they walked in. Oh no, let's go, let's get out of this. Let's go. She was like, no way. She was like, I felt it. You know what I mean? But she was very, sensitive to different things, and she felt it. But yeah, that pillow out of nowhere was just like right in the middle, like letting them know. So it's, but that's why, going to your question or Steven's question online about the death disclosure, it's a material fact. That's a big deal. Unless they died of AIDS.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually a protected class and they don't have to disclose if that happened. That's the exception. So, but any other death on the property has to be disclosed. And it's really a material fact if it's more than 3 years. If it's like a big enough thing that happened like 10 years ago, right? Something pretty significant that needs to be disclosed. So, because, some people believe that other things might be happening around here. So, whether you want to believe it or not, whether you want to say it was good or stupid on my part, but, I did it, disclosed it, it was off my conscience.
Well,
So, yep.
we say, or isn't it that if it's a material fact that would have changed the buyer's mind? I mean, if you equate it to that, then it definitely needs to be disclosed. If you think the material fact could change a buyer's mind to buy the home, but
It's a good way to,
Like-
yeah.
I'm trying to think exact, but do you know what I'm
Leslie?
saying? Like,
Also in like my recent training while I was leading up to doing my exam, that's exactly right. If a buyer asks anything, that means it's a material fact to them because they care enough about it that they've asked the question.
Correct.
So whatever it might be, even if you're not meant to disclose it, if the buyer asks the question about it, it is a material fact, you have to disclose it.
Right. And especially since they're asking the question, then you need to answer it, right? But you have an affirmative duty to disclose what you know about the property. Now, if you don't know, you don't have a duty to disclose that. And that was the whole part. But once she went and we're at the table and I'm about to take the listing, she's well, this is gonna freak you out, and I need to go show you this. Oh my gosh, what is she gonna show me right now? She walks me over, opens the drawer, takes off the two bag. I'm just like, oh my gosh.
What was it?
It was a candle that had an envelope opener like stabbed
Old
through it.
school kind.
Looked like a knife,
Yeah.
like stabbed through it. And she said she went to, it was just her. She lived there by herself. She had her dogs. She went out back to let them out to the restroom, comes back, and this thing had to levitate and stab through. I was like, somebody was playing a prank on you. So she went to a psychic. They're like, no, you got some stuff going on there. There's somebody trying to cross over, do something. So she said she had some incidents and situations and even, yeah, I don't even want to say any more than that. It was enough. It was enough to be interesting, enough to disclose, just in case anything happened. And it was an older home, so you just kind of got that vibe already. Like she had lights, the windows were 100 years old. The lights and they would flicker as I'd walk through, and as I'm hearing this, of course, I'm more spooked out. While we were pressure washing, April was helping me out. We're pressure washing the deck, and we're out there at night. I'm thinking she's like laughing at me. I'm getting spooked out and looking over, seeing like mist clouds up. I'm getting out of this place. Like I've been here all day. Let's go. Let's get out of here.
Pressure wash and
Well, yeah, and then the way the lights hitting the mist going up, and I'm looking, I'm like, this just, it doesn't feel right now. I'm getting out of here. But it was fun. She was a fun client. She was awesome. Yeah, I'm glad it all worked out. All right, that's the end of it. We still went late. I was trying to wrap this up in an hour and a half. Well, Lachelle, thank you for hopping on. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yep. See you tomorrow. Have a good
All
day,
right.
everyone.
All right. See you. See you, Steven. Thanks for hopping on, buddy.
Oh yeah, thanks.
All right.
Appreciate
Any
it.
other questions? Or are you good?
No, I'm good right for right now.
All right, good. Because we want to wrap this up. So.
Oh no, I got like
All right.
20 more questions. No, I'm just kidding.
All right. Sounds good, Steve. We'll talk soon, bud.
Bye.
All right. Take care. Bye.